Over the course of the past 20 to 25 years, I've amassed a ton of knowledge in the real estate industry as a real estate agent, new home construction, but also particularly as a long-term buy and hold investor, or as many people like to call it, a landlord, which is the focus of this video. So if you've ever asked yourself, what should I be doing as a new landlord? How do I protect myself? What are my responsibilities? What is it that I don't know? Well, this is the video for you. I'm going to answer all of these questions and even more. But before we get into this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and post a comment. This video was actually inspired by a question from one of my real estate mentees who just bought a first home a year ago, and now she's on her fourth rental unit. She came to me and said, I feel like I'm missing something. What else should I be doing as a landlord? And she asked me to do this video for new landlords. So post your questions in the comments, and who knows, you may be the next one that gets your question answered. You are in a good position. Now let me share with you the 5 things every landlord must remember. First off, do it with me. I want you to take a deep breath. Breathe in. Now breathe out. Do it in. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Now, do that a couple times, and I want you to relax. That's the first tip. Just relax. If you're invested in real estate, know that you're in a good place. The housing market has fluctuated over time, with home values increasing fastest in the 1970s. 43%, and it slowed in the 1980s to 8.2%. But housing prices in 2024 have increased 12.73% since 1950. Inflation is your friend. There's a book by R. Buckminster Fuller that he wrote in 1983 called The Grunch of Giants. And in the book, he talks about individuals that write the laws of the land. And if you write the laws of the land, you're obviously gonna write those laws in your favor. So as a landlord, you get to dictate the rules when it comes to dealing with your tenant. You do that by writing your lease. So you determine if there's going to be a deposit. You determine what the payment is. You determine what the pay day is going to be, the pay location. All of that you write in order to protect your interest. So if you're in real estate and you're doing it as a long-term investment, you got your rents right, the property's going to be appreciating, just relax. That's the first tip. Just know that you're in the right place. Now, the second tip, review your tenant. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about the demographic that I work with, and then you can compare it with the demographic that you work with to determine if my strategy works for you. I believe investing in underserved inner city communities. The number one reason for that is you tend to get a lower priced property. Another reason is you have a demographic of people that are used to renting. They're not moving in and out. And in this business, you make your money by keeping tenants in the property long term. So my goal is to keep the money flowing as long as possible, uninterrupted. So that's my goal. But you gotta also understand what comes along with these low income inner city communities. Bad credit, criminal record. That's just part of the game. So understanding that, when I review my tenants and when I screen my tenants, I'm looking at 2 things, and I'm not gonna say 2 things alone, but primarily 2 things alone: income and rental history. Number 1, I want to know that they have the capacity to pay the rent, and that capacity is determined by them having 3 times the rental income. Now, don't ask me where that rule comes from. I think it comes from the mortgage business, because typically they want your home payment to be 1/3 of your monthly income. So when you use that as a metric, if your monthly income is $1,000 a month or $3,000 a month, then your rent should only be $1,000 a month. So income, make sure they have the capacity to repay. And then the second thing that I look for is rental history. Have they paid their rent on time where they currently are? How long have they been at their current place? What they have done in the past is a pretty good indicator of what they're going to do in the future. So when I review my tenant, those are the 2 indicators that I'm looking for. Now, if you're in a higher end neighborhood, you may expect better credit. You may have different parameters and rules, but understand the 2 most important things that you need to know, whether you're low income, high income, is how much money they make, which determines determines their capacity to repay, and what is their rental history been. Now, the next tip is to write your lease properly. Remember, our Buckminster Fuller, the Grunch of Giants, you get to set the rules of engagement. This establishes the terms and the relationships between you and the tenant. Anytime there's an argument, breakdown, issue in any relationship, it typically boils down to a communication. They expected one thing, you expected another. That's why we write a lease. It sets out the expectations. When you set out those expectations, you expect them to abide by those rules, right? It's simple business. So make sure you establish those rules, establish the expectations, and then abide by it. The next tip, do your repairs up front. Now, when I started in real estate, I used to buy properties and I would do minor repairs, and my goal was, if it wasn't broke, don't fix it. If it works, leave it in the property. But over time, I've kind of evolved. Now, my decision making on the front end was based upon the amount of money that I had available to me and my knowledge. Now that I've been in this business for over 10 years and I understand the cost to repair a window, if it's an old window, I'm probably gonna replace it because it makes it look better, gonna make it more energy efficient, which is gonna make it rent quicker, which is gonna increase your income. But when I started out, my primary concern was getting in. Not a bad strategy. Once you get in and rent starts to come in, then someone else actually pays for the repair. But on the front end, I wasn't doing that. But what I strongly suggest, if you're starting out and if you're like me, where real estate is only one of the things that you do, real estate is what stabilizes me. I write books, I do public speaking, I run the Texas Black Expo, I'm married, and I have 4 kids. All of that takes up a lot of my time. So when I get a property rented, I don't want to get calls for people telling me to fix stuff. So I choose to buy the properties. I like them beat up, I like them raggedy, so that I can tear out the sheetrock, I can put in new plumbing, put in new electrical, put in new toilets, kitchen counters, all of that good stuff, so that the tenant isn't calling me for anything except to come pick up rent. Now, that wasn't the way I started. That may not be where you're at right now. You have to determine your strategy up front to determine what works for you and what doesn't. Now, that was my why. That's the reason why I did it. There are also people that buy properties, they put band-aids over stuff, and they cash flow them, and then they just deal with the maintenance issue. If that's your strategy, it's not bad, but that's not the way I think about it. I think long-term versus short-term. If I'm gonna own a property long-term, I want the repairs done up front. If I'm trying to flip it, I don't have to do as many repairs. As long as everything is functional and works, and I'm gonna sell it and pass that problem on to someone else, then that's what I'm gonna do. But you have to determine what your strategy is, all right? Now, the last thing I'll share is really good insurance. You gotta have some really good insurance. One of the things that I talk about in real estate investing is hedging your bet. You have the property, you have it cash flowing. Now you gotta protect your investment. I remember when I started building houses, they have what's called construction insurance, which covers you for 3 to 6 months when you're building a property. It could be $700 to $800, depending upon how big the property is or whatnot. When I started, I would never buy that insurance. I would say, hey, I'm saving myself $600 or $800. Once I got bigger and I started working with clients, helping them to build houses, and these were high net worth people, Wall Street money, I noticed every single time they would buy the insurance because they were trying to protect what they had, as opposed to me, I'm trying to save and gain by keeping, this money in my pocket. So with that said, insurance is about protecting your investment. You've invested a lot of money, energy, and time in this property, so make sure you get the proper insurance. Once again, if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, and post a comment. Who knows, the next question that we answer may be yours.